I'm sure you've heard of BANT and you've heard of MEDDIC, but which one is the best to use? I'm going to tell you exactly which one I would recommend and when to use it. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we're going to tackle MEDDIC and also BANT. And if this is your first time listening to the podcast, please go ahead and subscribe. We're going to notify you every time we drop a new piece of content. And if you're a long-time listener, first-time caller, go ahead and holler at your boy on LinkedIn. You can find me, Donald C. Kelly, on LinkedIn. Would love to connect with you and hear some of the things that you probably want to hear as episodes. But today, one of the things that's come up over recently is this idea of a sales platform or sales methodology, MEDDIC versus BANT. You also have MEDDPIC as well. So there are many different ideas or a part of the sales methodology, but I want to break it down and let you know which one you should use, which one is the best for you to use, and also when to use it and what it consists of. But let me give you some stats. I want to just make sure you can understand this before we dive in. There's some real data that goes back to a sales methodology. And I want to set this on the top of it because I know some of you are going to get, say, Donald, I don't like that one, or this one, I can't believe you said that. But I don't care what you use. I'm just giving you from my experience and also some of the things that the data proves. And also, you can use whatever is working for you to close business, but I'm just trying to give you some answers on this one in particular. So here are some stats. Doesn't matter what sales platform, what methodology you use. Reps who use a structured methodology are 33% more likely to hit quota. One more time. Reps who use a structured sales methodology are 33% more likely to hit quota. And it's a simple fact. They have a process. They're not guessing every single time. And this goes back to some of the things we share. No more winging it. As a sales rep, you can't afford it. You have to make sure you're predictable and have an effective way to generate revenue. But here's what let's go through each of the processes and help you to understand. Again, I don't care which one you use, but just hear me out. BANT is a very simple process. Let's start off with that. BANT stands for budget. I'll have that pop up here on the screen. Budget, authority, need, and timing. One more time. Budget, authority, need, and timing. Now, the budget is simple. How much you're willing to spend on this project. The authority is this person does this person have the capability to make a decision? Or are they an influencer? Or are they just get me more information type of person? The need. What is the need or the pain or the issue you're trying to solve? And then time frame. How soon are you trying to fix this? Is the buyer trying to buy something next week or next year? This all is going to be helpful as you're qualifying. And that's exactly what these methodologies are doing. They're just trying to qualify an opportunity to see if this is going to be good for your business or not. But if you go into a conversation and you use BANT literally the way it is, hey, Donald, nice to meet you. What's your budget? That ain't going to work. And socially, you're going to look kind of weird. So the way I like to tell people, if you're going to use BANT, what you want to, I rearrange it and I have it in this format, N tab. So let me tell you what that is. The N is for the need. Usually if somebody is interested, what is the inbound lead or your outbound calling? You got to figure out what they're looking for because the need is critical. Now that you have the need, the next thing is the T, the time frame. How soon are you trying to fix this problem? So we would go through time frame. I like to use authority at this point or get authority. What's their decision-making process? How are they going to go about making a decision, or who's a part of that buying committee? And that's the authority. And then obviously the last one is going to be your B, the budget. How much are you investing at this point? So N tab, literally. Now, when can you use BANT? BANT is going to be great. I personally, I'll come back and explain further about BANT as we use a scenario. But let's jump over to MEDDIC, because this one is one that you probably have not heard a whole lot about, or maybe you've heard about MEDDIC, but you just kind of never really understood how to use it. MEDDIC stands for a very simple thing, and it's nothing to do with medical, by the way. Medical sales reps can use it, but here's the thing. The first one is metrics. That's the M. The second letter is the E, which is economic buyer. The third letter is D. The first D is the decision criteria. The fourth D is the decision process. I'll explain each of these. The I is for identifying a pain point, and then the C, which is the medic at the end, is the internal supporter or the champion. So let's go back through. The metrics are going to be like, what are some of the qualifying metrics for the solution? So let's say, and this may be like, I'm gonna use this example, and then you can just think of it in this way, easy. Let's say that I sell a software comparable to QuickBooks, and I am trying to persuade you to use our services, and you're an inbound lead and we're having a conversation. I want to understand some of the metrics, how many things you're processing, how much is it, how much you make, eventually we're going to get down to maybe how much you think you're losing and so forth. But those metrics are going to be critical as we go throughout that process, right? The next component is then the economic buyer. I want to figure out who's a part of that buying committee. How are and who's going to be the person essentially that's going to say yes? Is there one individual or is there a committee? I've worked on deals where the CFO was that economic buyer, but I had other influencers that were a part of it, like the department head and so forth, that were critical to it. But the economic buyer was that CFO, and CFO didn't come in until later in the deal. The second D is so we had talked about the economic value. The first D now is the decision criteria. What are you going to be basing your solution on? Like when you're evaluating these different vendors, are you going to be like one that's the most handsome? I mean, I would win all the time, of course, but you're probably going to look at what are some of those other criteria. And I want to get what that is before I guess. And that's where sellers usually do. They guess, like, I think they're looking at this stuff. Don't guess it, just find that out. And that's the decision criteria. Then the process. The decision criteria is one thing, but what's the process like, the decision process? Are you going to evaluate it? Then we're going to take it to the executive team, and then we're going to take it to the board. What does that look like? And we need to get that. And don't assume, because you might think that every company does this the same when they're making enterprise level deals. Not the case. Maybe they have different internal policies, and you need to figure that out. And that's the criteria. The next one is in identifying pain. Figure out what is that pain that the organization is facing. Why are they needing a new solution at this point? And then obviously the last one is the champion. You got to have a champ. And some of you, then the champion is the person that supports this cause. They're internal seller behind this, and they're the ones that are going to champion it inside the organization. They have stuff to gain, and also may have stuff to lose as well, because they're putting a reputation on the line. And most sellers mess up on this one. They don't identify a real champ, and then it makes it difficult for them to progress the deal. But you don't do MEDDIC in that same exact format, you're probably not going to get all of the MEDDIC information in the first meeting. But as you're continuing the process of discovery, conducting a disco, you might get glimpses of information. You're definitely going to figure out that pain or the information, the issues that the ideal customer might be facing. But that's the part of that process that you're going to be doing in that. But I want to also give you a couple other things as well when it comes to looking at MEDDIC. Sometimes there's something called the MEDDIC. So let me explain what this is. There's MEDDIC with two C's at the end. So there's the champion, and then there's the competitors. The competitor is spelled the same way, MEDDI, but two C's at the end, CC. The second C is for the competitors. You want to find out who is the incumbent right now. Maybe you can figure out how you can come up against them, or who else are they looking at. Sometimes salespeople don't want to ask that because they feel it's going to get kind of screamy, but that's where the money is at. It's in those awkward conversations, so to speak, when you have some kind of a little bit of tension, things that may be uncomfortable. That's where the friction, that's where the money comes from. I'm going to tell you that's the case. And I've seen that to be true so many times, because otherwise you're going to assume, and you know what assuming does. You can't take it to the bank. It ain't going to make you money. But MEDDIC, so in that process, I'll spell it out as MEDDPICC. So the P stands for paper process. And you can see there's usually an extra I that's added into it as well, that you can utilize. And that may be maybe the influencer or whatnot inside of the process. But I'm just going to keep it simple for you. And let's keep it at that MEDDIC in that way, that the P is going to be that paper process, and there's no extra I. But you can see how this can quickly get bigger, and it's going to be MEDDIC R, whatnot. But the P in that, I've worked in industries that sometimes, where it was a very paper intensive process, or they have a long paper trail where this must go through this individual. We have to get legal involved at a certain time. Procurement needs certain things. And it's when you get to the bigger deals, I find that the MEDDIC portion is going to be important. So let's ask you now, when do you use which one is the better? The answer, and I kind of teased it out at the beginning, but the answer is there is no one that's the best one or perfect across the board. They're based on situations. So let me give you an example. In a traditional sense, you're going to use BANT if you're going to sell solutions that are less than $25,000, because BANT is just a simple thing. So let's go back to our software again that I'm selling, the QuickBooks equivalent. People can probably buy the stuff online. It's a product-led growth methodology process, so they can go online and buy it, but also they can work with a sales rep to get help on it. Am I going to spend all day on a deal that's going to be like $10,000 and go through all of that? No, I need to do basic qualification. They're probably inbound leads already that's coming into our company, and I just want to figure out, is Mary ready to buy right now? What's the issue? What's the time frame? And the authority. And this is very helpful for brand new BDRs that can utilize this. But once the deal get over $25,000, usually that, and it may happen before, but it's a bigger deal, and it tend to go into that maybe some enterprise level type selling. And in that, that's where MEDDIC may come in, or MEDDIC may come in, because you have the opportunity. Like, say for instance, if you look at the BANT, where I'm getting one decision maker or person making authority claim, I can get that one individual on a call, and if I'm selling to an SMB, that person is probably the CEO that's taking a call with me and their CFO. But if I'm looking at a MEDDIC situation, an enterprise level deal, bro, I probably have like 5 individuals as a part of this process, and no one person is going to take the blame. It's like I ain't being the one that's going to this my whole career on this. The champ is supporting it, but they also have others that they bring into the part of that process, and that's where MEDDIC you're going to see becomes so much more effective. And they have more processes, so therefore that MEDDIC is critical in that frame. You can rearrange your order, again, get the needs and then go around and so forth. But the principle is MEDDIC is going to be able to help you in that vein. So I want to share a stat that I found. I thought this was very interesting, and I think this is gonna help to solidify what we're talking about with this whole process. The stat states that, let me make sure I have the right number, because I want to tell y'all something. Y'all go get mad at me and say, Donald, you told me numbers that I don't right. But here it is. We have found this to be the case, that 60% of high growth companies use MEDDIC or a variation of that. So one more time, 60% of high growth companies are using MEDDIC or a variation of that. And here's another one. The average B2B group involves 6 to 10 stakeholders. Again, the average B2B group involves 6 to 10 buying group. So the average B2B buying group involves 6 to 10 stakeholders. And BANT is going to have a really tough time with a group like that. So that's why you would use MEDDIC in a situation, or MEDDIC in a situation like that. I would also look at it in the complexity of the deal. Again, if it's going to, when I sold to city, county governments in K-12, yeah, you can use BANT, but it's going to be rough. But when you use a tool like MEDDIC or methodology like MEDDIC, you're able to get way more help, because that sales process is lengthy. And you might run your BANT and you think you got all that stuff on one meeting. It ain't going to work. One strategy that I found to be helpful, though, is sometimes I work with teams and I have them do a hybrid of both. And you might say, how would you do that? I have the BDRs do BANT when they're doing cold outreach, and they're getting an opportunity qualified. And then the AEs are taken over with MEDDIC or MEDDIC. And in that, the MEDDIC component or the MEDDIC process can be tied with that BANT. So for instance, the SDR or BDR is going to get the needs. They're going to get the, maybe the time frame, and maybe they get the budget, and maybe they get the, authority, how they're making decision, or who's going to be a part of the buying committee. Some of that information can help to qualify that lead that my account executives then can utilize as they're making further discussion points. And that's one way you could do it. And if you're getting a whole bunch of these leads and you need to get them just qualified really quickly or get them churned, use something like a BANT. It's going to be helpful to see if they qualify. So those are the breakdown of the 2 different solutions and when you might use them. Again, the biggest component you're going to look at is how many people are part of that decision-making committee. You're going to want to also look at the size of the deal. That's going to be helpful. How long does it take for the deal to close? If it's something that's going to be, individual can make a decision in one day, you're probably not looking at a MEDDIC on that. You're probably looking at like a BANT, and it's going to be easier. And when I train sales reps, I usually train them on BANT to get them started. It's so easy if they're brand new, so they can go ahead and learn from that. And then as they grow in their career, we're going to get them trained on some other methodologies like MEDDIC. There's no one way to do this thing, because some of you are using Challenger, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some of you may be using the Sandler process. I started off with that. There's nothing wrong with that. The point, though, is that you need to use something. But these are some of the ways that we found that these solutions are working best. I would love to hear from you. What methodology do you use? Drop a comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're on in LinkedIn and you listen to this podcast. Just go ahead and drop me a message on LinkedIn and just tell me, Donald, I'm using blank. I would love to hear from you. Speaking about hearing from you, we have something that I think you may like. It's our sales mastermind. It's basically a place where sellers can come and practice. They can get help overcoming the objections and so forth. We have small groups, 12 individuals per group, and we meet weekly for 60 minutes. Our next group begins in September, and I would love to have you join us in that mastermind. It's easy. It's a great practice avenue. And each week we're going to have 2 sellers go in a hot seat, and those sellers are going to share a challenge. We're going to help them work through it with other sales professionals, and you have your group. The other cool thing with the mastermind, everyone set a goal at the beginning of the mastermind, and we work together to help you achieve that goal by the end of the mastermind. So maybe it's bringing $350,000 in revenue by the end of the quarter. We break that goal down and how you can go about doing it, and put some accountability on it, and some practice your pitch, or evaluate one of your last discovery calls. Maybe you got an objection, got stuck at. We can evaluate that and give you feedback and practice it so you don't come across it again. But the mastermind is just that. It is just what it sounds like, a mastermind of other like-minded sellers. I would love to have you join us. To find more information, go to thesalesevangelist.com/mastermind, or go in the show notes. As always, I want you to thrive. I want you to succeed. I want you to raise your level of thinking. But most importantly, I want you to go out and do big things. See you on the next one.